you talked about in the two Isaiah scrolls, one Q Isaiah A and one Q Isaiah B, and they have differences. And I asked, is it the difference of whether it was Moshe or Shimshon? And I just want to be clear. So we weren't talking about that kind of difference, right?
No.
We're talking about whether there's a vav in the word shomer or not.
In my book, I checked some lines of these two scrolls and compared them, and found about 15 or 20 differences in 5 or 6 lines. But they're all small differences, tiny differences of adding some letters, maybe one word that doesn't exist there and exists in the Masoretic version or something like that.
So when you say the Masoretes, they went through this process where they made the biblical text uniform down to the exact letters.
Yes.
I want to understand, was that an arbitrary thing where they said, we want this to have a vav, or was it, what was it based on? How did they decide that? Or do we not know?
We have an ancient Baraita that's speaking about 3 books that were kept in the temple.
And a Baraita is a source from the Tannaitic period, swing up until the year 200 approximately. Okay.
And this Baraita says that these 3 accurate and holy books of the Bible, they differ from each other in 3 words. And so they took, in each case, they took the majority, the 2 scrolls against the 1. So if in 2 scrolls it was written Na'arei, the boys of Israel, in one it was written Za'atutei, so they prefer the version of the 2 scrolls. And I think that this Baraita is typical, is not only speaking about one historical case, but it's the way that was used during all generations. The Masoret did not create the version of the Bible. They had traditions, and their goal was to determine which of the traditions should be accepted and which tradition should be denied.
So in other words, okay, let's look at that example. So it's Exodus 24, verse 5, and it says, "Vayishlach et na'arei b'nei Yisrael," and Moses sent the young boys of the children of Israel, vaya'alu olot, and they brought sacrifices. And in one manuscript in the temple, instead of na'arei, the children of the young boys of the children of Israel, it said za'atutei, which also means children. But it's a completely different word.
It's just a very different word. It looks strange that such differences occur, but there were such differences. And if we go again to the Dead Sea Scrolls, we can find differences in the same biblical text, something like that.
So here's an example that Professor Kucher of Hebrew University brought decades ago in Isaiah 13:10. So it says, "Ki chochvei hashamayim uchsilehem," the stars of the heaven and their maybe constellations or something, "lo yahelu oram." And it has a strange word, yahelu. What is yahelu? They will shine, I guess, from the context, and it's related to the word hilel, which bright one maybe. And then in 1Q Isaiah A, it has lo ya'iru oram, which is just the normal word for to give lights.
So then if we are going back to these scrolls, we have the 2 versions, and we don't know what was the original. It may be that the very simple word ya'iru is more understood, and maybe it was the first, but maybe just the opposite, because we had a special word that some scribes did not understand what it means, so they altered the word with a common word that in the same thing. But however, the scholars may think that one alternative is the original or the other one, but they have one solid fact. What was the decision of the Masoret? We have the biblical version, which is presented in the Aleppo Codex, which is also presented in general in all printed books for the last centuries. They all did not use the Qumran ancient scrolls. They did not use the Septuagint Greek translation. They used the tradition which came out of the Masoretes, and in all books it will be written Yahelu Oram. Doesn't means that we are sure that that was the most original word that Isaiah used. You can, as a scholar, you can correct the version of the Masorah. You can accept it, and you can write many articles about that. But one fact is solid facts exists. That the decision of the Masorah is Yahelu in this example. That's how all Bibles are printed, and that's the starting point of reading the book of Yesaya. If someone wants to assume, to think that to suggest corrections, what should have been the original version, it doesn't. It may be very interesting, but it cannot be a fact that will change the printing of the Bible of today. What we have today, the Masoretic version, represents the decisions of the Masoretes, and if we want to know what is the Masoretic version, we have to go to accurate manuscripts like the Aleppo Codex, like the Leningrad Codex, like other codices. In some places, we will find some differences among them, and the question will not be what is the original version that Isaiah spoke and wrote. The question will be what was the decision of the Masoretes, and which of the codices of the Masoretes represent the decision of these Masoretes. Most of cases, the differences will be only in tiny things of imot kri'ah, of some letters, Vav and Yud, which do not change the meaning. And then we can use the Masorah comments, which also appears in these same codices, in many places of these codices. And these comments helps us to reconstruct what was really the decision of the early Masoretes.
So this is fascinating. So I'm going to summarize, I hope correctly, what you just said.
Yeah.
You're not working on, in your research, what did Isaiah write or say, or someone wrote about him.
Yes.
You're working on what did the Masoretic text or the Masoretes determine was the official version of Isaiah.
That's right.
Okay,
and
wow.
If you go, and that was the decision of the Jewish nation to get the work of the Masoretes. And then, if we are going to print, I want to speak about my late teacher, Rabbi Mordechai Breuer, who created a new version of the Bible. What does mean a new version? He went back to the manuscripts of the Masoretic. He took the Aleppo Codex, he took the Leningrad Codex of the whole Bible, and other ancient codices. He compared them, and he tried to find out what was the version of the Masoret. It's not far off the version that was printed before in Venice in the 16th century or in other printed books, but there are differences in plain and defective spellings, in some punctuation signs. So I believe that his work represents better the decisions of the Masoretes, because he used manuscripts, ancient manuscripts from the period of the Masoretes, and one of them is the Aleppo Codex, which was created by the great Masorete Aharon ben Moshe ben Asher, who was well known among the Masoret. They all said they are relying upon. Also, Maimonides relied upon his work. And if you examine his manuscript, the Aleppo Codex, you can find out that it is better, more accurate than other manuscripts.